Part 5. Chapter 4. Michael and the Kings of the Earth.
And the head of the kingdom of Persia is standing in opposition in front of me for 21 days, and behold, Michael, first of the chief heads, has come to help me. Daniel 10:13a SLT. I, Gabriel, therefore was no longer needed there with the kings of Persia. Daniel 10:13b, Bulgarian Protestant Translation, 1940.
Daniel 10. The unseen battle and divine intervention. In Daniel 10, the curtain separating the visible from the invisible world is drawn back, allowing Daniel to grasp future events impacting God's people. Verse 14. He learns of an ongoing spiritual battle against evil forces attempting to manipulate the Persian kings. This conflict is so intense that even the Son of God, Michael, the first of the princes, intervenes. Verse 13, Young's literal translation. Bearing the military name Michael, meaning who is like God, this isn't a physical confrontation with swords and spears. As 2 Corinthians 10:4-5 states, the weapons of our warfare are not carnal, for we are casting down reasonings and every high thing that exalts itself against the knowledge of God, and bringing every thought into captivity to the obedience of Christ. Yet, this spiritual warfare mirrors the combative nature of the kings described in chapter 11. Despite the intensity of this unseen conflict, love governs this divine kingdom. This is why Daniel is addressed as the Beloved, Daniel 10:11. The angel also refers to Michael as your prince, Daniel 10:21, and the one who stands in behalf of the sons of your people, Daniel 12:1. This imagery evokes kinship and family relationships, contrasting the cruel earthly kings with Michael, the Prince of Peace, Isaiah 9:6. Jesus is called a prince rather than a king to denote his position in relation to God the Father, the great ruler of the universe, John 14:28, 1 Corinthians 15:24-28. Daniel 11, from Medo-Persia to Papal Rome. Like the third prophetic section, Daniel 11 begins with the Medo-Persian kingdom. Darius the Mede, verse 1, the central figure in Daniel 6 and a representative of the ram's lesser horn, Daniel 8, verse 3, son of Ahasuerus, Daniel 9, verse 1, received the kingdom at age 62, Daniel 5:31. However, it was the Persian king Cyrus who conquered Babylon, a conquest foretold over 150 years prior, Isaiah 45:1-6 Seoserothum, Ezra 1. By Cyrus's time, Persia had become the more dominant of the two nations, prompting the angelic prophecy to focus directly on the Persian kings. The text predicts that after Cyrus, 3 more kings will rise: Cambyses, Pseudosmerdis, and Darius Hystaspes, Daniel 11:2. It then states, the fourth shall be more rich than all, and when he shall be strong through his riches, he shall stir up all against the kingdom of Greece. Ibid. Xerxes is identified as this fourth and final Persian ruler to oppose Greece, leading an immense army of 5,283,220 men. The bold king, who reigns with great power and acts according to his will, is Alexander the Great, verse 3. Following his death, his power is divided among his 4 generals, bypassing his direct heirs, verse 4. The kings of the north and south. This marks the beginning of the conflict between the king of the north, the Seleucid kingdom, and the king of the south, the Ptolemaic kingdom. These kingdoms, founded by Alexander's generals Seleucus and Ptolemy, exert significant historical influence until 47 BC, when Rome assumes dominance, Daniel 11:5-17. The following table summarizes their key wars and interactions. Verse, years, events. 5. 282 BC to 281 BC. Seleucus I Nicator, Ptolemy I Sota. 6. 253 BC to 246 BC. 2 wives, Laodicea kills Berenice. 7-9. 246 BC to 222 BC. The revenge of Ptolemy the Third Everget. 10. 225 BC to 222 BC. Two brothers, Antiochus III the Great, Seleucus III Cyrannus. 11. 221 BC to 217 BC. Antiochus III the Great, Ptolemy IV Philopator. 12. 217 BC to 204 BC. Ptolemy IV Philopator. 14-year peace treaty begins. 13. 217 BC to 204 BC. Antiochus III Magnus 14-year peace treaty ends. 14. 204 BC to 200 BC. Rome on stage. Antiochus III, Philip V, Ptolemy V Epiphanes. 15. 200 BC to 198 BC. Siege of Sidon. Antiochus III the Great. Siege of Attalia, leading Egypt. 16. 65 BC to 63 BC. Siege of Jerusalem. Pompey of Rome. Antiochus XIII Asiatic. 17. 48 BC to 47 BC. Siege of Alexandria. Julius Caesar. Cleopatra VII. Ptolemy XIII. Pagan Rome and the Messiah. The subsequent section, verses 18 to 29, outlines the history of pagan Rome in relation to God's people and the Messiah. Verse, years, events. 1847 BC to 45 BC. Rome, 4 battles, Pharnaces II of Pontus, Africa, Spain. 1945 BC to 44 BC. Rome, the death of Julius Caesar, Marcus Junius Brutus, Gaius Cassius Longinus. 20. 44 BC to 14 AD. Rome, Augustus Caesar, Luke 2:1-2, the whole world must be taxed. 21. 14 AD to 37 AD. Rome, Tiberius Caesar, Luke 3:1, vile man. 22. 14 AD to 31 AD. Rome, Jesus Christ, Daniel 9:25-27, the Prince Messiah. 23. 161 BC to 134 BC. Rome, alliance with the Jews, 1 Maccabees 8. 24. 31 BC to 330 AD. Rome, 360 years. Kings bequeath their kingdoms to the Romans. 25 to 27. 31 BC to 30 BC. The final conquest of Egypt by Augustus Caesar through the cessation of the war waged against Mark Antony, Caesar's brother-in-law, and Cleopatra, the queen of Egypt, to whom Mark Antony had become engaged. 25. 31 BC. Rome, Battle of Actium, Augustus Caesar, Mark Antony, Cleopatra. 26. 31 BC to 30 BC. Rome, Battle of Alexandria, Augustus Caesar, Mark Antony, Cleopatra. 27. 30 BC. Rome, certain time, Augustus Caesar, Mark Antony. 28. 30 BC to 70 AD. Rome, 2 returns of Rome, Egypt, and the siege of Jerusalem by Titus. 29. 330 AD to 476 AD. Rome, Constantine, Constantine II, Constantius, Constans, barbarians. Papal Rome, the successor. The next section, verses 30 to 39, provides a detailed prophecy of Papal Rome, the successor to pagan Rome, reigning until the end of time, 1998. Verse, years, events, 30, 439 AD to 538 AD. Rome, Arian controversy, Genseric, the Vandals, Justinian, Catholic councils. 31, 496 AD to 538 AD. Rome, the French king Clovis definitively sided with Nicene Christianity in 508 and fought against the enemies of the papacy. This marked the transition from paganism to converted paganism, from the daily to the abomination that causes desolation. By 538, the 3 Arian tribes of Heruli, Vandals, and Ostrogoths had been destroyed. 32. 300s AD to 1300s AD. Rome, Waldenses and Albigenses. 33. 1300 AD to 1700 AD, Rome, the Great Reformation. 34, 1620 to 1691 AD, Rome, Puritans of England. 35, 538 AD to 1798 AD, Rome, 1260 years of papal supremacy. 36, first called the King, because he occupies the position of the King of the North, but as a spiritual kingdom. This is the fifth kingdom of Daniel 2 chapter, composed of iron, the state, and clay, the church. 37, rejection of the worship of the true God of the prophets and apostles. 38, 4th to 6th centuries, introducing a new deity, the Trinity. 39, whose definition is power. The time of the end, after 1798. The final part of Daniel 11, verses 40 to 45, leading up to Michael's raising, Daniel 12:1, addresses the time of the end starting after 1798. Verse, years, events, 1798 to present day. The French Revolution stripped the papacy of its power, but it continues to rule through its representative, the false prophet, Protestant America. Revelation 13:11 to 13 cf. 16:13. 41. Present day, future. The New Jerusalem in the New Promised Land, America, is attacked, and a national Sunday law is issued. Revelation 13:15 to 17. The call to come out of Babylon is heeded by God's beloved people. Revelation 18:4, 42. After 1989, the Eastern Bloc, which embodied the ideals of the French Revolution, collapses. 43. These days, and that conquering the resources and peoples of the King of the South, modern Rome becomes three-headed, the coalition of the dragon, United Nations, the beast, papacy, and the false prophet, Protestant America. 44. Near future, the 144,000 proclaim the final message of mercy, instilling fear in the King of the North. 45. Near future, Armageddon and the worldwide deadly Sunday law, Revelation 13:17, cf. 16:13, 14, 16, 17, 12 to 14. When those who have rejected the last message of mercy attack God's people, emboldened by the Sunday decree, the time of probation ends. Everyone will have made their decision, and the Son of God will return to earth, Daniel 12:1a. This is also when Satan gains complete control over the unrighteous, Daniel 12:1b. Before the second coming itself, and the general resurrection of the righteous, 1 Corinthians 15:22, 23, a partial resurrection occurs. Faithful bearers of the last message to the world are raised, Daniel 12:2, 12 CTS. Revelation 14:6 to 12:13. Those resurrected to shame and everlasting contempt are the avowed enemies of Christ and those who condemned him to death. Daniel 12:2 cf. Matthew 26:63 to 64. Revelation 1:7. However, they do not seize this opportunity to repent. This is not the general resurrection of the unrighteous, as they are resurrected 1,000 years after the second coming, Revelation 21-5. The removal of the daily happened 30 years before 538 AD, Daniel 12:11 cf. 1136, marking the end of God's indignation against Israel, 723 BC, 1798 AD,